Did you know? Although most commonly referred to as Nicktoons games in US territories, all Nickelodeon crossover games in Europe are distributed as SpongeBob and Friends. It isn't known exactly why this is, but since many Nicktoons series have aired on channels other than Nickelodeon itself internationally, something could have prevented them from being officially referred to as Nicktoons in Europe. It could also be that SpongeBob's international popularity dwarfs other Nicktoons franchises so much that rebranding Nicktoons games as SpongeBob games is necessary to make a profit. This may be a wise move, as some Nicktoons franchises haven't been featured in any of the games, including the X's, Mighty B, and Doug. Nicktoons games also aren't afraid to make obscure references. The SpongeBob episode Plankton from Season 1 features a gag where Plankton shows SpongeBob his lab, as in Labrador, and only then leads SpongeBob to his laboratory. The same Labrador can be seen in one of the SpongeBob levels from Nicktoons Unite. Some other characters, like SpongeBob's idol Kevin, make cameos in the game as a statue in one of the Jellyfish Fields levels, and the game's boss fight with Plankton can even be seen within the first level of Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island. Although Nicktoons Unite is widely regarded as the first proper Nicktoons crossover game, Nickelodeon characters have appeared together in software since 1996 with the release of the Windows 3D Movie Maker spin-off Nickelodeon 3D Movie Maker. With the help of two so-called moderators, the software lets users place 3D characters and props into a pre-rendered environment. Since SpongeBob would become a major selling point for the company a few years later, the concept was revisited in 2003 with Toon Twister 3D, which had a few interface upgrades and featured characters such as SpongeBob and Jimmy Neutron. 1999 saw the release of the first multiplayer Nicktoons game with Nicktoons Racing for the original PlayStation, which would be re-released on multiple platforms over the following years. This included an arcade cabinet in 2003, which alongside another racing game called Nicktoons Nitro would be the only times Nicktoons characters were playable in an arcade machine. 4 kart racing games would be released in total, with other non-platforming titles including Nicktoons Move-In for the PlayStation 2's iToy add-on, which would also be the only PS2 exclusive Nicktoons game. One of the more controversial games in the series was 2011's Nicktoons MLB, which was heavily criticized for the eerie mixture of realistic-looking baseball stars alongside radically simplified Nicktoons models. Although it featured the largest selection of Nicktoons characters in the series and included fan favorites like Powdered Toast Man from Ren and Stimpy, which came as a pleasant surprise to some, Invader Zim's creator Jonan Vasquez was not pleased with the game's inclusion of his characters. In a now deleted tweet, Vasquez said, "It's like seeing one of your own kids sucking on the corner for a cold hot dog. Just keep driving. Don't cry." Another Nicktoons game is the Pokemon Snap-style Game Boy Advance platformer Nicktoons Freeze Frame Frenzy. Freeze Frame Frenzy mislabeled quite a few Nicktoons characters, such as Bill from Invader Zim, who was referred to as Professor Membrane, and Sheldon from My Life as a Teenage Robot, who was labeled as Tuck from the same series, despite both characters being in the game. Freeze Frame Frenzy is also the only platforming title in the series not to be released on multiple systems at once, as they were usually released on most current consoles and handhelds at the time. Nicktoons Unite was also supposed to get an Xbox release at some point during production, but this was scrapped for unknown reasons. Similarly, the minigame collection Nickelodeon Party Blast for the Xbox was supposed to get a PlayStation 2 release as well, but this was also cancelled early on. As well as cancelled games, the series has plenty of cut content. Nicktoons Unite may have had more playable or non-playable characters at one point in development. A file in the game's data titled actors.ini has a comprehensive list of characters that appeared in the game. The list includes characters that don't actually show up in the title, such as Vicky from Fairly OddParents. It also includes characters like Gary from SpongeBob and Cindy Vortex from Jimmy Neutron, and although these characters appear in a few pre-rendered cutscenes, they never show up in-game. The majority of cut content can be found within Nicktoons Attack of the Toybots, where in the game's concept art gallery showcases sketches for an unused area called Invasion Force. The titular character from Hey Arnold can also be seen inside one of the pods, suggesting he too was planned to be a playable character at some point. Jimmy Neutron was also planned as a playable character in Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island if a piece of concept art featuring the 4 main characters sitting around a fireplace is anything to go by. Those aren't all the secrets hidden within Attack of the Toybots, however. Looking through the game's source files also reveals an additional level centered around the Fairly OddParents main character Timmy. There's also a master model for Snap from Chalk Zone, including multiple characters from the early Nicktoon Kablam and its spin-off Action League Now. While it's unknown why these were cut from the game, it's likely that Nick was not able to include them due to licensing issues. Kablam in particular was more of a showcase of different cartoons rather than having a fixed cast of characters to be used in a game, adding the series to the list of Nicktoons that were never featured in any of the games. Another interesting piece of unused content can be found within the data of Nicktoons Racing. Inside the PC version's files is an unused image of a badger wearing a green suit. This might have a relation to Jeff Badger, who is listed as moral consultant in the credits. The PC version also has an unused graphic for a meter that says main screen. The graphic doesn't fit the Nicktoons Racing art style and is most likely a leftover from NASCAR Racers, another Windows game that Software Creations were developing at the same time. Aside from currently inaccessible folders containing areas cut from the final product, Attack of the Toybots also features quite a few lines of unheard dialogue. This includes lines for whenever the player enters one of the master model chambers or when the player finds one of the unlockable characters Grr, Stimpy, XJ9 or Rocco, even though no dialogue is used for these segments in the final game. It also includes a set of lines from the Fairly OddParents characters Cosmo and Wanda that were seemingly intended to act as tutorials during production, though all their lines are replaced with simple text messages in the final game.
Control panels are so breakable! Hint hint!
Some old screenshots of Nicktoons Globs of Doom also feature several character combinations that were not possible in the final game, implying that a manual character selection was considered at some point during production. However, none of these give any indication as to whether Timmy Turner was supposed to be a playable character, as this is the only entry in the Nicktoons line of games not to include characters from the Fairly OddParents. One reason for that might have been that the original developers for the previous games, Blue Tongue Entertainment, were not involved with the development of Globs of Doom. Although each of the game's main characters got a main stage centered around the world their show takes place in, Invader Zim's world is the only one being referred to as just that, while SpongeBob, Jimmy, and Danny all get unique names for their respective locations. This is because although the main premise for the series involves Zim trying to take over the planet Earth, we never actually get to know what part of the planet the show takes place in, hence the title Zim's World. This would later be improved upon with the Nicktoons Nitro arcade cabinets, where Zim's racetrack is being referred to as Irken City. Irkens, of course, being the race of aliens Zim is a part of. Globs of Doom also turned out to be the last in the Nicktoons Unite series as a result of poor reception, with many criticizing the unpolished gameplay and abundance of bugs. While a few Nickelodeon console games were released since Globs of Doom, it seems the company has since moved on to the mobile and online market. The most prominent of these games are the Super Brawl line of mobile and flash games, which sees characters from a wide selection of Nicktoons facing off in a Street Fighter-style fighting game. Interestingly enough, these games actually started out as a holiday event on Nick.com called Jingle Brawl, which was released alongside the lesser-known minigame Merry Mayhem. As of the time of writing this video, the most recent Nicktoons console release was Nickelodeon Kart Racers in 2018. Although this game was the first to include characters from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, its selection of Nicktoons is as small as the one from the 2006 title Winners' Cup Racing, as only 4 shows are present, with Rugrats, SpongeBob, and Hey Arnold aside from the TMNT. There was a rather severe miscommunication while marketing the game. Advertisements stated that 12 different characters would be available to play as, and this was believed to mean the game would include characters from 12 different franchises instead of only the ones shown in trailers. The game's developer Bamtang later tried correcting this error by promising DLC, which would allow new characters from other Nicktoons to be added into the game, but a year after the game's release, it's unknown whether new updates are still in the works. After it became apparent no more video games centered around Nicktoons characters crossing over would be in development, rumors surrounding a theatrical adaptation of the events of Nicktoons Unite started circulating around the web. The movie news outlet TrackingBoard.com stated back in 2015 that Nickelodeon's movie distributing company Paramount Pictures had been in the early stages of developing a Nicktoons live-action and animated crossover movie along the lines of Space Jam. And although many of the speculations surrounding the movie and potential Nicktoons revivals, such as the Rocko's Modern Life TV movie Static Cling, have since been proven true, no new information regarding the Nicktoons movie have come to light since. Did you also know that there's a text document within the developer's file of SpongeBob SquarePants Super Sponge that details all the frustrations a developer for the game had experienced while working on it, alongside an emulator for the Super Nintendo and multiple games that helped inspire Super Sponge? For more facts, check out the DidYouKnowGaming video on Loot SpongeBob secrets, and if you want even more SpongeBob, you could check out my video on the cartoons it ended up beating out even very early on in its run. I got a ridiculous amount of SpongeBob content over on my channel, so come feed into my obsession.